Alright, so you've probably seen the studies, and I'm guessing you probably experienced it. AI is more capable, but you and your team aren't seeing the results that really move the needle. Better AI won't automatically grow your business. There's a root problem that AI just can't solve, and the problem is what is constraining your growth. So in this video, I want to move beyond the hype, and I want to break down exactly how you can get results. And the thing is, you might not need AI. So I'm going to show you 2 failure modes and the flow loop for choosing the right solution. Let's get into it. We're at a point right now where AI adoption is broad and the models are starting to see some diminishing returns. I've had a lot of conversation with businesses and organizations, and I found one repeating pattern. The discussion usually begins with the tool instead of the business constraint. What I hear a lot of is, can I use Claude to auto-respond to my emails? Now, here's a better question. What is preventing us from increasing revenue by 20% within the next 12 months? Starting with the right question can help you to identify the core problem and the real why that you need to focus on. So what if the real reason you couldn't grow by 20% was because you don't have the right systems in place to handle the additional work? What if your team is already turning away business? Doing anything outside of solving that one core problem won't drive any meaningful business results. It doesn't matter how capable AI is. If it can't solve your core problem, it's really not going to add any meaningful value. See, you need to start with the problem, not the tool. You can make one task faster and still produce no additional customer value, revenue, capacity, or profit because another part of the system is setting the pace. At any point in time, you should be able to identify the single business constraint. So how do you actually do this? Well, there's actually a book that I recommend everybody read. It's called The Phoenix Project. It's a great novel about a company that became overwhelmed with too much work, poor handoffs, constraint emergencies, and a critical workstation that became the entire bottleneck for the entire business. At a very high level, the book uses something called the theory of constraints and what it calls the 3 ways. The first is flow, make work move from request to delivered value with less waiting, rework, and work in progress. The second is feedback, make problems visible quickly enough to correct them before they spread. And the third was continual learning and experimentation, improve the system instead of treating every failure as an isolated event. Now, those ideas translate into sales, finance, customer service, onboarding, fulfillment, and any other type of work. If 10 proposals waits for one person to approve pricing, that person or policy may be the constraint. If every new customer requires information to be retyped across 3 different systems, the handoff may be the constraint. If service issues arrive faster than the team can diagnose, intake, and triage the process, might be the constraint. Notice we're not even talking about AI here. We're focusing on the problem first. The solution that you have AI or some other tool becomes valuable when it improves the flow. Everything else doesn't matter. That's why most of these projects fail. You need the North Star to help guide every decision. So now I mentioned these 2 failure modes. So of course, the first failure mode is going to be solving the wrong problem. This is something that happens in every single company, and it happens when the company starts with the tool or doesn't spend enough time understanding exactly what it is that they're trying to accomplish. Here's what I usually see. Someone buys a tool, asks everybody in the department for their use cases, measures activity. For AI, that's prompts used, documents generated, or pilots launched, maybe even tokens used. Those measurements are sometimes useful and sometimes they're not, but they do not prove that the business constraint has improved. Technology follows the diagnosis. Sometimes the answer is AI. Sometimes it's simply automation. Most of the time, it's better processes, software configuration, integrations, policy change, training, or maybe even one role with a clear ownership, so fixing mandates. Now, you might have actually found the right problem, but the next is understanding how the solution solves that problem. So now that's great. Now the second failure mode is where you might have actually found the right problem, but next is understanding how the solution solves that problem. Here's where I see a lot of recommendations to use AI. And while it might work, the implementation matters. You might want to respond to prospects faster, and of course, AI can do that. But if you're selling a high-ticket service, the risk of AI getting it wrong might outweigh the savings. A better solution might be to have AI auto-research the prospect and then forward it to the individual most likely to close the deal. Or leverage AI to help you to find the right hires so you can staff appropriately. Really understanding how the solution solves your problem, the limitations of the solution, and the risks can help you make sure that you can implement something that will work. So now let's go over flow. It's something very quick. It's a decent method that you can use that will help you to identify what will work for your company. Let's start with the F, which is going to be fix the outcomes. Begin with the business result, not the technology. If the goal is 10, 20, 30, 40% growth over the next year, treat that as the North Star. Define the baseline. Is growth expected to come from qualified demand, a higher conversion rate, greater delivery capacity, improved retention, higher prices, or a mix? Then establish the guardrails. What can't degrade when you pursue this goal? Margin, quality, customer experience, employee workload, security, cash. You have to define these things to make sure that you're achieving the goal without sacrificing something else. In every part of your decisions, there will always be a little bit of give and take. It's just, what are you comfortable with? And so next, you need to map how value moves today. What does your existing workflow look like? Start with the trigger, that's where work starts, and then follow the work through to the customer. Record the people, the decisions, the data, the systems, the handoffs, the queues, the exceptions, the rework, and approval points. Map what people actually do, including spreadsheets, copied messages, side conversations, and manual fixes, all of the things that help to keep the system alive. Measure both working time and wait time. A task might require 10 minutes of effort, but wait 3 days for approval. Automating the 10 minutes will barely make a difference in your business. You'd need to focus on the approval time. This is where you find whether the problem is really software or process driven, or a combination of both. Next, we got to move to observing the constraint. We now need to find out what's limiting the outcome. You have to observe what your constraint is. You need to look for growing queues, long waits, repeated rework, overloaded specialists, missing decisions, quality failures, capacity, and even stages where the customer demand disappears. If you're the founder and heavily involved in all of the work, you're likely contributing to the constraint. I want you to think in terms of workstations, not people. Use data where it exists, but combine it with observation and interviews. Dashboards often measure the complete transaction. Constraints will frequently live in work that's typically waiting, abandoned, or handled outside of those systems. So now let's move on to the last one. You've mapped everything out and you know exactly where the constraint is, and you have your North Star. This is the time you start focusing on improving the process. You need to start removing unnecessary work, clarify the decisions, standardize the input, change the sequence, protect the constrained resource from interruption, move appropriate work before or after it, reduce batch sizes, strengthen the feedback. There's a lot of different techniques that you can use to make this improvement. This is where the right technology can help. Something as simple as a project management tool can make massive improvements in your process. Figure out if you need to build, custom, or buy a solution that solves the problem and adds value to the business. Measure the business results. Did throughput increase? Did the queue shrink? Did conversations improve? Did time to value fall? Did capacity rise without an unacceptable quality or risk? Once the constraint moves, repeat the process. So AI is going to keep improving, but for your company, the only thing that matters is real measurable value. Most AI solutions won't grow the business when they're aimed at the wrong problem. Start with the outcome. Map the flow, find the dominant constraint, then choose the process and technology that can improve it. That's what we call workflow first decision, and it's the foundation of what we do here at Innovair. So if you want help mapping out the workflow, finding the constraint, and deciding what to buy, automate, improve, or build, use the link in the description below to book a consultation. And if you found this video helpful, you're going to want to watch this video right here.